Welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children. I'm your host and storyteller, Dan Wendelin. Today's episode was recorded in May of 2008 and followed a day in which Rebecca had misplaced a library book. And so I told this story about what can be only the most plausible explanation of what had happened to that book. I hope you enjoy the story.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Rebecca, and she liked A to Z mysteries, so she would check them out at the library at school. And Rebecca was usually very good about keeping track of her books and taking them back to the library. But one week, something unusual happened. It was when she had checked out the book. What was it?
I think it was the empty envelope.
The empty envelope, yes. And she read it while she was still at school. She took it home, and she had it in her bag. And little did she know that on that particular day, when she put her backpack down in front of the fireplace, there was a rat hiding in the fireplace. The rat's name was Timian. Timian. And as soon as Rebecca had left the room, the rat sneaked out and looked carefully around to see if any of the house cats, Storm or Midnight, were around. And when they saw that they were not, he unzipped the zipper on Rebecca's bag, and he took the book firmly in his teeth, and he pulled it into the fireplace and disappeared. Now, if you had followed Timian, you would have seen that he went out through a hole in the fireplace, and he went out to the garden. He went out to the daffodils in the front yard, and he walked up to the largest of the daffodils, and he said, "Avina, I've got it." And a little yellow flower fairy popped her head out and said, "You've got it, Timian? That's fantastic." And she flew down and she looked at the book, and she read it. The Timian, she said, "This isn't the right book. I told you to get the magic book, the enchanted envelope." "Oh," said Timian. "Well, I'll just take it back then." "Keep looking," said Avina. So Timian took the book and he started back towards the fireplace. But when he was about halfway back, a great black crow dove out of the sky and landed right in front of him and said, "The Queen of the Pixies requires this book of magic. I'll be taking it now, rat." And before Timian could say anything, the crow grabbed the book in its beak and flapped its wings and was off. It flew up out of Rebecca's yard and across to the boulevard to where the Queen of the Pixies lived, at the very top of the tallest tree on the boulevard. And he flew up and he took it to her and he said, "Caw, just as you requested, my queen, I have stolen the book of magic from Avina and Timian, her pet rat. Here it is for your perusal." And the Queen of the Pixies said, "Excellent, let me look at it." And she took the book and she began flipping through. She said, "This is not a book of magic, but it is a very interesting mystery story. You may leave it. Continue looking for the magic book." So she read it, and she read the whole thing, and she thought it was a pretty good mystery. And she got done with it, and because she was a pixie, and because she wasn't very nice, she just took it and she tossed it out of the tree. And it fell, and it would have fallen all the way to the ground if it had not landed in a squirrel's nest. Now, this particular squirrel's name was Wilbur. And the thing about this squirrel, and really most squirrels, was that he could not read. But he had seen that it was the Queen of the Pixies that had tossed it out, and he figured that anything that she didn't want to have anything to do with must be pretty good. And so he thought he had better take the book to someone who did know how to read. So he waited until night, and And then he took the book in his paws and he scampered across the boulevard until he came to the area where there was the bush that was sort of hollow inside. You know the one I'm talking about that you all were climbing on today?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that was where Wyver, the great silver owl, held his court at night. Wyver was in charge of all the good birds of the neighborhood. And when he saw the squirrel coming, he said, "Who goes there?" And Wilbur said, "It's me, Wilbur. I've brought you a book that the Queen of the Pixies didn't want." "Ooh, a book. Let me see that book." And so Wyver picked up the book in one claw and he flipped through it. He read very, very fast. He read the whole thing. He said, "Ooh, this is a good book." He said, "I think I know why the Queen of the Pixies did not want it. I think she is after the Enchanted Envelope, which is a book of magic." He said, "But she has not found it." "How do you know?" said Wilbur. "Because I have the Enchanted Envelope. I am protecting it." "Oh," said Wilbur. "Well, would you like this book too?" "It's given me an idea," said Wyver. "You may go now, Wilbur." Well, Wilbur left, and he walked back across the boulevard to where his nest was, and he curled up in his nest, and the whole time he did not see, from gliding high in the sky, a night raven had watched the whole thing. Night ravens are like crows. They are birds that are servants of the pixies. And pixies are a less friendly sort of fairy. All fairies, both fairies and pixies, believe that nature is very important. But fairies also believe that humans are very important, whereas pixies, if they had the power, would just get rid of all the people and houses so that there could just be trees and flowers and fields. So the night raven had seen this whole thing. And with his sharp night raven hearing, he had heard Wyver say that he was the one who had the enchanted envelope. And now the night raven knew that he was not to disturb the Queen of the Pixies. And so when Wyver left the book in his claws, the night raven simply watched from high in the sky to see where Wyver went. Now, as it turned out, Wyver lived in the big pine tree in Rebecca and Diana's backyard. That was where there was a hole in one side of it, and that was where he slept during the day. But before he had gone to sleep, once he was inside his hole, he did something. And so, the next day, when the night raven saw the Queen of the Pixies and told her that Wyver had the enchanted envelope and where he was, she sent her secret spy pixie named Slee.
Slee?
Slee, yes. Slee was a pixie that, you know, every fairy and pixie sort of has a plant that they like best. Slee liked mushrooms, which was an unusual thing even for a pixie. And Slee liked the dark, and Slee liked to sneak around. So Slee made a great spy, and Slee went across the neighborhood until she got to Rebecca and Diana's backyard, and then Slee snuck quietly up the pine tree, and saw that Wyver was asleep, and so Slee quietly entered the hole in the tree, and looked, and saw that there, tossed carelessly in the corner, was the
empty envelope.
The empty envelope. And underneath Wyver's claw, he was sleeping with one claw on another book. This one had a beautiful, sparkly, silver-colored cover. And it was called The Enchanted Envelope. Well, Slee snuck right up to Wyver, and then she took a little pinch of fairy dust and she flicked it right up at his nose where he breathed it in, and then she muttered a little something, and Wyver was so asleep after that fairy dust that Slee slipped the enchanted envelope right from underneath his claw, and then she snuck out with it. Well, before long, Wyver woke up, and he said, "Whoo, whoo, I guess I'm not hidden here anymore. I must find a new nest." And he took the empty envelope, and he flew off to another nest, one even better hidden, in the same neighborhood, but it is so well hidden that even I do not know where it is. Whereas Slee went back to the boulevard, back to the tallest tree in the boulevard, and climbed up to the top, where the Queen of the Pixies lived. And he gave her the beautiful enchanted envelope, and she said, "At last I will have the power to keep the humans off of the boulevard, so that it may belong just to pixies." And she opened the enchanted envelope, and she said, "Ah!" because inside the first page read the empty envelope. Because Wyver had taught the Queen of the Pixies and Slee a valuable lesson, which is that you should never judge a book by its cover, because before he had gone to sleep, he had switched the covers of the empty envelope and the enchanted envelope. And so all the Queen of the Pixies had was the cover of the enchanted envelope and a very nice A to Z mystery. And that is why, if you ever find the empty envelope, inside, maybe, just maybe, there may be a book of magic.
Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's story, but questions and witty commentary were supplied by my children. The music was created by Brandon Thompson. Your reviews and personal recommendations are the main way that new listeners find the show, so thank you for spreading the word. I'd love to hear your feedback, so feel free to get in touch via email or social media, which are listed in the show notes. Until next time, I'm Dan Wendelin, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.